Are you ready to crack the code on closing bigger deals and landing better clients? Welcome to The Closing Code, the podcast for sales pros and agency owners who want to master the art of selling high-ticket digital marketing services. In each episode, your hosts, Clinton James and Josh Konigsberg, bring you real-world strategies, actionable insights, and proven tactics to help you level up your sales game. No fluff, no gimmicks, just the tools you need to win more deals and build a thriving agency. Let's get started.
Welcome, folks, to another episode of The Closing Code. I am your host, Clinton James of Water Restoration Marketing.
And I am Josh Konigsberg from the law firm Marketing Pros.
Josh, how are we doing this week?
Amazing. Just awesome week this week. Closing the month strong.
Love it. Love it. We got a special guest for the audience today. I'm not going to call him the Orange Man because that has some negative connotations in certain circles. I'm going to call him the man in orange, right?
There we go.
The man, the myth, the legend, and someone who over the last 2 years I have known, have had the pleasure of not only masterminding with, but also consider him a good friend at this point. So I'd like to welcome to The Closing Code, Matt Plapp of America's Best Restaurants. How are you today, Matt?
Living the dream, brother. Appreciate it, Clinton and Josh.
Appreciate you joining us today. I'm looking for you to really bring some great value to the audience there. So, Josh, why don't you kick things off?
Yeah, I'm really excited. Thanks again, Matt, for joining us. And I just want to tell the audience that, I do these coaching calls for seven-figure agency, and every once in a while, Matt drops in on the calls, and he just continues to drop these sales gems into the group. So really appreciate when you do that.
I thought you were going to say,
I had the privilege to actually learn from you, bro. So it's great. I really appreciate it. So can you walk us through how you got into the agency space and then into the restaurant niche?
yeah. So the agency space, I guess it goes back to 1999. I was in radio advertising at that point for about 5 or 6 months. And my dad and brother and I wanted to do something together. My dad had this idea about creating a boat dealership on consignment basis in our region. He knew the business. He was semi-retired and wanted to do something with me and my brother. Brother had just moved back from San Diego from serving in the military. And don't know where we got the idea because none of us are tech people. But I had a client that sold computer stuff, and he had a book there on how to create a website on this thing called Adobe Pageville. And to put it in perspective, my tech knowledge at that point was probably a 1 out of 10, and that's generous. I bought the book. We created a website. We created an online boat listing service and RVs, and that launched my world of digital marketing. So for the next 4 years, I became a radio sales rep. I became one of the top in the entire city, top in our 4 stations, did really well based on my dad training me to be a consultative seller, to not sell something to somebody they don't need, to sell them what they need. And in that process, built up the boat dealership from 0 to about $7 million pretty quickly, and was online for 6, 7 months and started learning marketing from both sides. And then in '03, left radio after 4 years and ran the family business with my brother and dad. In that time, we just blew up on the internet. We were the number 1 dealership in the country for multiple product lines, and we were really big in the internet. And in that time, a lot of my radio clients were calling me looking for advice and wanting to trade product for help because I didn't have a company that did this stuff. I was just another business owner, but the local papers had published like articles on what we do. There's a hallway in our headquarters here that has about 20 articles. One's in 2004 on how we're doing this big stuff on this thing called the internet, and it's got Procter and Gamble, who's a local business, and then Matt Plapp. And so clients were calling me going, "Hey, help me build this website thing. What's SEO?" And so I started doing side projects. Hey, give me your card, landscape my house. Tax man didn't hear that. And I started doing that kind of stuff. And from 2005, 2007, the economy was just going down in '07. It was stressful as could be being in the boat business with banks and $7 million in loans. And so I eventually just got to a point where I despised the boat business, but I loved consulting with my former radio clients. It was just so cool. Number one, I was on the cutting edge. Like none of them had any idea about the internet. I had a client that had 46 car dealerships. I mean, you know what car dealerships do? Massive money. And so I started talking to them about these things. And the fact that they were on a scale of 1 to 10, a -10, and I was a 10 all of a sudden, it was pretty cool. And so 2007 came, and me and my dad and brother decided, man, this boat business, it's terrible. We hate it. We were doing 15 million in sales. Our life sucked. We were there 100 hours a week. And so I started doing consulting on the side. And by '08, we were going to get out of the business anyways. And the economy took a big turn, as you know, that summer and fall. And so we exited that not so gracefully. I had started my agency around April of that year and went off running. And one thing that I saw unique that a lot of people probably didn't see was when I sold radio, I dealt with a lot of agencies, and none of the agencies from those days had ever evolved into what we are, guys. They were all buy radio, buy TV, buy billboard. And the question I asked one time in agency, why have you never suggested a strategy that doesn't come with a price tag to this client? I make 15% what the client spends, Matt. Why would I ever suggest something that I don't get my 15% media commission? I'm like, okay, that makes sense, but I think that's completely backwards. So in '08, when I started Driven Media Solutions, I labeled myself the mobile marketing director. I said, hey, the majority of you people that I've known for years are buying radio, buying TV. You're getting raked over the coals on it. You don't know how to buy it. Your copy's terrible. And on top of that, you don't have a Facebook page and you don't have a LinkedIn presence. You don't have YouTube and you're non-existent on Google and your website's terrible. And so my whole thing was I'll buy all of your media. A client was, for example, paying us $4,500 a month, and they were spending between 3 locations $1 million a year on marketing. Turned around and said, "Hey, I'm going to buy your $1 million a year for you. It's going to cost you about 200 grand less. Are you good with paying me $4,500 a month for that deal? And I'll handle your digital media." And it was like my learning curve. And they're like, well, of course we will. And so that was the start. And we ramped up. I say we, it was me from '08 to 2010. I just went out and knocked on doors, went to BNI groups, went to Chamber of Commerce meetings, got referrals and grew to ballpark 20 to 25 clients in 2 years. And that was the start of this agency.
Wow. Good origin story.
So how did that h- pivot into the restaurant niche from
Yeah. So
generalist?
I've grown up around the restaurant business. My dad had an insurance company that had a lot of restaurants insured. And so the joke in our family was we all thought mom couldn't cook as a kid because every night we ate out, when in fact mom could cook like the best, like anybody. But my dad's clients were restaurants. And so Monday night we went to Greyhound Grill. Tuesday night we went to Barley Coins. Wednesday, Mike Fink's. Thursday, I mean, just this rotation, always eating out, networking, support my dad's clients. So I grew up around restaurants and I always liked it. And then when I got into radio in '99, one thing that I found is that nobody called on the mom and pop restaurants because they perceived they didn't have any money. And when I looked at how to build my book of business in radio, I was fortunate. My dad is a master sales trainer, took me to an event that had Zig Ziglar and Tom Hopkins in 1999. And I heard them talking about sales, but Tom Hopkins had this really cool strategy. I don't know if you guys have heard of him or not, but he was a real estate sales legend back in the day. He had this strategy: figure out how much you want to make, figure out how much you make in commission, and then do the math and then come up with levels. Like, don't just say, oh, I got to close 10 people to pay me 10 grand. Come up with levels. And so I created this strategy and said, okay, all the big boys are taken in radio. Everybody's got the car dealership, the casinos. What's not taken? And nobody was calling on restaurants. And I looked at my strategy. Yes, I would love to have a car dealer spending 10 grand a month. But what if I had 10 restaurants spending a thousand a month? What if I found something strategic, unique that would benefit them? They don't have the budget to that. And I also saw the need for places to entertain my clients and give gifts. And so I became the restaurant trade king. At any given point at my office when I was in radio, I had a drawer that had between 30 to 40 grand in trade in it for you name it in town. And so I would go to restaurants, go, hey man, you don't fit to be on our station citywide. So it wouldn't make sense for you to spend 10 grand. But what if I had a way you could spend a grand and trade $500? And because you're my guy doing trade and you're giving me preferential treatment when I bring clients there, I will make sure you get preferential treatment on the radio station. And I built up like 20 or 30 restaurants. I had everything you could imagine. Like my one buddy, Doug, who's now my COO, his wife blames me for gaining 20 pounds one year because I had so much free Grader's ice cream trade a place locally, and I would lose it. I lost $2,500 one month to him in Papa Shot in our office because he would bet with cash, I would bet with graders, and I was terrible. But I was known as the restaurant trade king, and so I've always identified with them. And so when we built our agency, 9 of my first 30 clients from, '08 to let's say 15 were restaurants. And when 2015 came around, I looked at my business. It was me and one employee. I was working my butt off. I was 80 hours a week. I was, vacation was an option, but not to actually do anything. I'm on my phone and laptop. You guys know the life. And I sat down and thought, man, I like what I'm making. I'm making plenty of money. I love working with my clients. I love the results we're getting because we were really unique. There was nobody in this region doing Facebook ads to get people to fill out a form to come into business and spend money. Like it was non-existent back then. Like our clients were just blown away by how they're paying me to do, let's say like the restaurants, the one restaurant's paying us $4,500 a month. Of that $4,500, maybe $500 a month was going to me doing all these digital strategies. And it was driving 20 to 30 grand in sales, but the radio and TV, we had no earthly idea. And so my goal at one point was to kind of tilt the scales and go, okay, let's go away from paid media and go into digital. But what really hit it for me was I found a guy named Billy Jean Shaw. Saw his ad on Facebook in the summer of 2016. I had been searching like, man, I need a tribe. There's got to be some place with other people like myself because I had never met another agency like us. It was, in our area, Northwick Stall, it was these giant media companies that were 200 employees buying, doing $400,000 websites for Procter and Gamble. And so I was looking for a tribe. Constant Contact had a conference I went to, lame as could be, a bunch of morons, to be honest with you, the people that were there. That wasn't my tribe. So then I looked at going to a thing called Social Media World, and I was pretty cheap, still am to some extent. And I saw the price of going to that. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to spend like 3 grand to fly out there, hotel, like to some marketing conference. And then I saw an ad for Billie Jean Shaw the summer of 2016. I bought the $25 flash drive, booked an appointment, paid $50 for the appointment. That was on a Sunday night. I stalked his cousin, Takashi, who is the sales guy, for 3 days to try to get the appointment early. That didn't happen. I got on the call Wednesday, and whatever Billy was selling, I bought, paid like 6 grand to go to his meetup in 2 months to buy his Clicks in the Customers program to teach me how to scale because he spoke my language. He's like, hey, if you're watching this, you're an agency, you've got 20 or 30 local clients, you've hit capacity, you don't know the deal. And so I ended up going to that event and then I ended up paying him 30 grand the next year to do one-to-one coaching. There were 6 of us that he called the Extraordinary Geniuses. His genius program was his program. Extraordinary Geniuses was like 6 of us. It was supposed to be 5 and he sold it out and I begged to get in. And my buddy, Chris Patterson, who was good friends with Billy, called him and said, you got to let Matt in. And so he took my money. We became good friends and that helped me understand what niching meant. And one of the things he did that got me thinking about who to become my clients was he said, Matt, I want you to write down the people that you love that you deal with and the people that you hate. And like the top people that if they called you right now, you'd go golfing with them, you go to dinner, you go on vacation. All 3 of my top people were restaurant clients. And I had 4 verticals I had identified: restaurants, boat and RV dealerships, because of my background, we had a few, we murdered it with them. It was just like taking candy from a baby, getting consumers to buy stuff from them, but they were a pain in the ass to deal with. And then car dealers, same thing. It was easy, pain in the ass to deal with. I didn't relate to the guy that had a private jet that, had 50 locations. Like I just wasn't that guy. I'm a good old boy. And then the other one was golf courses. And so I went golf and restaurant, but then the golf courses, I kept running this headache of the seasonality of it, that the golf courses were either broke because it didn't rain enough and they used all their water to make the course look good, or it rained too much and nobody golfed. So I said, okay, I'm going restaurants. There's no weather. And we went all in with restaurants 2016-ish. The goal was to, like Billy said, you got like 40 grand a month in revenue with your agency. Your restaurants are down here at like your couple grand. We got to tilt the scale. Right. And you've got to go to a point where in the next 2 to 3 years, that revenue's gone and you've got new revenue, just restaurants. So that's how it happened. And by 2018, we're basically 100% restaurants. And here we are, I don't know, 7, 8 years later.
Amazing. So you ran everything basically by yourself for a while. What was the turning point when you realized, hey, I need a sales team?
It was so I hired a buddy of mine named Doug in 2019 who sold in radio with me. And the big turning point in 2018-ish was that I was not only the owner of the company, I was the head of a couple of our product departments. I was doing our landing pages, paid ads. At that point, I had about 5 employees. And to back up a little, the one mistake we made in the boat business, we were all in on sales from day one. We blew up and we had no operations. And so I used to joke that we spent more money every week at the boat dealership fixing the problems from the sales team, but also because we didn't build operations. And so it was constant. So when I started the agency and when I got to the scaling part, and by 2015, it was me and Ashley, who's now the vice president of our agency. We have 2 divisions. She runs the entire agency. She's a beast. She came as a law clerk that had technical background to some extent and just got laid off and was like, hey, I'm looking for a job. And her mom knew me. So I hired her in 2011 and her and I built the business to 15, but then 15 to 18, we scaled up with 5 operations people because I'm like, you know what? I can sell it. I can manage relationships. I got us up to, let's say 70 to 80 clients. And I was the account manager and I was sales and I didn't have enough time. And it was a nightmare, but it was fun. And so I hired Doug and him and hauled about him with him. I could never figure out how to hire him before we niched because before we niched, I was looking at Doug as, okay, he's going to come in and do this. I've got to go now find 40 more clients because I was trying to figure out the math. When we niched, I could all of a sudden see the assembly line. And so I brought Doug in this January of 2019 and he was part-time for a couple months because he had a contract ending with a big company, took a $100,000 pay cut to come work for me because he didn't want to be at that company anymore. And he saw the vision and he's still here and he's now my COO and he's the vice president of our other division. Actually, he's now vice president of our sales team. He just moved over a month ago. But I brought him in because he also built a sales team with a radio group in Texas. So he was in charge of 3 radio stations, 25 salespeople. So I said, hey, I'm going to bring you in, be my director of sales, even though there's me and you. But more than anything, I just need you to free me up so I can do this. And so the first thing he did in 2019 when he came in, let's say it was like, and it was April, May, was he started just shadowing me on all of our calls. We got a physical office. Up to that point, we just had shared workspace. We got a physical office, $2,500 a month. We had 5 desks in there. Me and him were the only ones that ever came. The other people all stayed in their houses like they always do and still to this day. That team still doesn't work in our office here, which is funny. They come here twice a week for like 3 hours. The sales team and operations are, the higher ups are here. But back then he just shadowed me for about 60 days. And then June of 2019, I closed 21 clients. And it was funny. Those 21 clients were all sitting there waiting to be closed, but because Matt Plapp was also an account manager, I'd have meetings with people like, yeah, it's a great fit. I'll get back to you. And I'll never forget that we're sitting there in July. He's like, dude, you crushed it last month. I'm like, I crushed it because of you. What do you mean? I didn't close any of those. I said, but you took other things off my plate. You started helping me account manage. You started being like my assistant so I could actually call these people back and close the deal. And so at that point, he started kind of account managing because the agency part with what we were doing, that was the sales and account management was one. And so 2019, he did that. We got to a very good momentum. 2020 hit, the pandemic hit, crushed the restaurant business for about 2 months. But then at the other side of it, I saw these restaurants were going to need more help. And so at that point in March of 2021, I guess it was March 16th or so when the things hit the fan, in April 1st, we went on our first trip. And so I started traveling every other week across the country, speaking, going to restaurants, doing what nobody was doing. And Doug held down the fort back home and started selling. And so he was the first salesperson doing that. We doubled over the summer of 2020. And then by 2021, we got frustrated because we had great products. We had great proof. We had every testimony you can imagine, every case study you can imagine. We could not get appointments. And we came to realize that neither one of us liked cold calling. Like we did it. I mean, we did it when we were rookies. When I was in radio in my 20s, bring it on. I knocked on doors. I called anybody. I didn't give a shit. But now in my like late 30s, early 40s, because that would have been 2020. Yes, I would have been 45. I'm in a neighborhood like him and I weren't cold calling. And we tried it. It was funny. We'd be in the office doing it and we'd get off. You could just say, we hated it. I said, okay, we got to find a salesperson. And so in June of 2021, we hired 2 people to help us with sales, Austin and Ryan. And it was me. And then also Luis came on board, but he was closing. He hated cold calling too. He still is here. He's across the hall. He hasn't cold called since day one. He's a closer. He had experience. So I hired Luis. He moved down from Chicago. Ryan and Austin lived locally. So we invested, let's call it $2,500 a week in the sales team. And the first 2 weeks we sat in the conference room over here because at that point I had bought this building, which is even funnier that we bought this building during COVID. I got a heck of a deal on it, 9,000 square feet, room for 50 people, all outfitted. And for the first 6 months, it was me and Doug. There was nobody else here. And like friends of mine would come by to see the office and they'd like, I'd tell them the vision. They're like, it sounds cool. I think you're on drugs, but I don't, I trust you'll do it because you've always done what you say you're going to do. And now the office is full for the most part. But Austin and Ryan and Luis, myself, Doug, and Dad, my dad, because he's a sales coach here now, we sat in the conference room, speakerphone on, cold called, had a list we built and just started cold calling. So I would cold call and they would critique me. They would cold call, we'd critique them. We had the whiteboard. Hey, you said 7 times. You said like. Hey, that person perked up when you said this word. And within 2 weeks, we came up with our script and it was off and running. And that team has fluctuated. We had 1.10 cold callers and 5 people closing deals, and then one other, call them a hybrid closer. We found that we watered it down too quick because we went from 2021, we had those 3 people. 2022, we hired like 7 more. 2023, we hired like 10 more. And we found that when we started hiring in volume and I got other people involved in hiring,
Mhm.
we got slackers in here. And what was crazy was we actually last summer, and this is a little tangent, but last summer we had 5 more people cold calling than we do this summer. And our production's up because of those 5 that were here, because the 5 that are still here were here last summer. The other 5 brought everybody down from a standpoint like they were lazier, they were complaining all the time. It was wild to see how you brought in some slackers and it just brought everybody down. But we're sitting here today with 12 full-time salespeople, and then Doug manages that entire team now.
Before we get into how you actually scaled and the different roles in your sales organization right now, let's take it back to the early days, right? When you had just niched down into restaurants, we're talking that 2008 to 2019 range. Can you walk us through what that early sales process looked like for you? Like, what did prospecting look like? What did the sales process look like? Or was it just Matt doing what Matt does and kind of winging it through the entire process?
It was winging it, and it was also every single thing that you hear me complain about in the 7 FA groups, cold emails, Facebook spammy messages. Like I got kicked out of so many Facebook groups. I think it was, I don't know who it was at the last event, the gentleman that's in moving. I can't think of his name right now.
Travis.
Travis, he talked about this great Facebook strategy, join the groups and be a ghost. And I'm like, man, that would have worked if I was the loudest person in the room and kicked out within a day.
Yeah, I
It
can't see Matt being in a Facebook group, in a conversation, anywhere being quiet or being a ghost.
impossible. And so I was like, buy my stuff. And they'd kick me out. But in that one time I said, buy my stuff, somebody would click it and come through. So I did every cold, spammy tactic you can imagine. I did a flash drive promo with Facebook ads that Billie Jean taught. I did displayed at trade shows. I went door to door here. That was a big thing I did. Like I'm in Northern Kentucky, Cincinnati. I'm within 4 hours of like 5 metropolitan areas, but Cincinnati area, there's, I don't know, probably I could have 100 restaurants here and not conflict with each other.
Mhm.
Even if I was doing HVAC, I could have one in Northern Kentucky, one in Northern Cincinnati. There's a lot of niches here that don't overlap geographically. So I went door to door. I was still in BNI and I went to clients of mine. Who do you know that has a restaurant? And then that led to this guy and this guy. And we started getting great results, which led to referrals. So we did probably everything you shouldn't do that I cringe over right now from a cold standpoint. And then we also did boots on the ground, knock on doors. That's why I'm adamant in the 7 FA when I hear people say, oh, hey, I just niched down to this. Like, how many clients you got? 2. Great. How many you got in your backyard? Well, none. I got a guy who was in Memphis recently on one of Josh's calls, the coaching calls. He's Mets boss and he's in Nashville. And I said, well, great. How many clients do you have locally? Well, what do you mean? Like, well, you're wanting to do webinars and cold emails. You obviously have proof. Well, not really. I got an idea. I'm like, okay, get off your ass, go down the street, go to a med spa, walk in there, take some Krispy Kremes and say, hey, I want to help you. I'm like, I wouldn't have been able to sell people if I didn't have local people. And I wouldn't have been able to train my salespeople if I hadn't done every single thing they're doing. And that's a huge gap
That's really great advice for our audience, right? If you're at an agent, if you've started an agency, and let's say you're below $10,000 a month in MRR, and whatever niche you have decided to serve, you've got those businesses in your backyard. So while you should do all the other things, right? The omnipresence, you should be doing the webinars, cold email, running meta ads, whatever you think that strategy looks like. But there's some value in just getting off your ass, getting out in the street, and knocking doors for the businesses locally that you can serve. And it'll help you to build some great case studies that you can use to close future business down the road.
And it's hard. And when you do hard shit, it makes everything else easier.
Okay, so now you sound like Chris. All right. One more question. Is there a specific win or failure that you had early on, once you've niched down into restaurants, that you can hang your hat on that really impacted your sales strategy moving forward?
A win that I can hang my hat on. I think one of the biggest, I'll say this. So we had a client of ours that we sold locally called Rapid Fired Pizzas, a franchise.
Yeah.
And at this point, we had had no luck with franchises. And I also had issues where we got franchises on board and corporate shut it down. So we get this guy named Patrick Harder who has Rapid Fired Pizza Fairfield. He was referred to me from a connection in BNI. Big win. I can trace back every early success in my business and many clients right now to people I met through BNI, which is Business Network International. It is a gold mine to be in a room with people who are like-minded, that are on the streets, that know, like, and trust you. So that's a big win. But when I got Patrick as a client, I said, hey, this was a little goal I had. I said, hey, because I had never had success with franchises. I had never had success with corporate office. I had success at the franchise level, but they would shut our stuff down within like 90 days because we weren't authorized or they didn't like it. They didn't know it. They didn't trust it. So I said, hey, Patrick, like part of our policy, and I just made this shit up, is I need to have a call with corporate marketing before we launch this to let them know what's going on and to warn them of some of the things they're going to see so they know to do this, that, or the other. So he gets Peter Wiley on the call with me. Peter's still a friend now. I'm actually seeing him in a month down in Atlanta. And he gets on the call and I say, hey, here's what we're doing for Patrick's store. They're paying for it. Here's the access I have. Here's how we're advertising. We have all the brand elements. This fits your protocol. Hey, I just want to give you one warning. I'm like, what? Do you know how to turn your Facebook notifications off? What? Like, well, when we turn on our program, it's going to generate Facebook comments. It's going to generate Facebook messages because we use Messenger.
Sure.
When you're an admin on the page you just told me, your phone's going to look like a Christmas tree going off. It's like, yeah. I've heard that before, Matt. So, okay. And I was pretty confident when I knew what we would do. Like our stuff works. And even to this day, it works. We had a client start last week and get 900 comments in 1 week for a free item at the restaurant. And so like, if you've got a Facebook page, you know that ding, 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 ding.
Sure.
So that was on, I'll never forget this because it was Traffic and Conversions 2017. So that was on like a Wednesday. I leave and go to TNC. I'm there Thursday through Sunday. Thursday, Patrick's program launches. Friday about 10 a.m., Peter calls my cell phone. Okay, tell me how to turn these damn notifications. I thought my phone was going to melt down. It happened to be that Patrick's program was our best we've ever had launched. 2,800 comments in 3 days. 600 customers walked in the store in like 2 days. And by Sunday, he calls me with 3 referrals. Hey, by the way, I didn't know what the hell Patrick's paying, but we're going to go ahead and pay for it. I got these 3 stores that need your help. I'm going to set the meetings up for you tomorrow. Off on your way. That was the first time I had ever kind of taken a different tactic. I had always tried to close it, come back. I just said up front, I need to talk to your franchise head because I need to know what's going on. So that was a big win. And it worked a lot because that also got us, man, I want to say Patrick and Peter in probably a 2-year period accounted for maybe 30 to 40 restaurants we ended up working with. And that was all from delivering massive results, but also being upfront and being honest and saying, hey, we're going to be doing this. You can shut it down right now, or we're going to turn it on.
I love that strategy. I also, since I work in the home service space, have a lot of clients that are franchisees, and it can always be a challenge kind of communicating and getting things through a franchisor. So that's a great strategy, Matt. Glad to see that that worked for you. And obviously it's allowed you to grow the business and generate a bunch of new clients for the agency.
Yeah.
Let's pivot back to building your sales team. So what were the biggest challenges when you first started hiring your outbound reps?
Might sound arrogant. We didn't have any challenges. And I think one of the reasons we have challenges is that the people that I found, I was fortunate, and this was an accident, but now it's how I built my entire company. I'm interviewing a brand new accounting person next Wednesday for the second time off of a single Facebook post on my personal page. But I was fortunate that the first three people I had that joined my team knew who I was. Like one of them knew me from but two of them knew me from the gym. One of them knew me from Billie Jean. Luis was a member of Billie Jean's program, was living in Chicago, had an IT company, had an agency, and I knew him. And he wasn't getting it to a successful level, but he wanted to come join mine, so he joined us. But all three people I joined, no, Luis had a retail sales experience. Ryan and Austin had no sales experience. Like they couldn't sell themselves to get a woman, and that I think the fact they had no experience, they trusted me, and they could feel my excitement. Like, I love this shit. And so when they were here and when I talk about our stuff, I get excited, I'm passionate, and I believe in it. So I think that's infectious. I didn't go find them on Indeed. They didn't work overseas. They weren't in a different city. They were in my office, and we were in that conference room, and we all like, even my dad at the time, who was 75 years old, was on speakerphone cold calling restaurants. Hey, it's Dwayne from America's Best Restaurants. We're actually going to be in North Carolina next week. And I think it'd be a great time to stop by and talk. Like, whose 75-year-old dad does that?
Matt, I hear what you're saying about not having any challenges, but I think what you just said explains a lot of the pitfalls that other agencies might fall into, right? Because the agency owner or the person that's hiring the people to make the outbound calls has never sat in that seat or done that job.
Yeah.
So they go online, and nowadays they feed a bunch of data into Chat GPT. They have them spit out a script, and they expect somebody that isn't familiar with their niche, not familiar with the businesses in their industry, to read off this script and generate appointments and opportunities for a sales team member there. So I think the fact that you, your dad, all the members of your team had actually sat in that seat and done that job, made those outbound calls, generated those opportunities. That's the reason that those people were able to come in and be successful and hit the ground running. Does that make
No,
sense?
you're spot on. And I think that's one of my biggest issues with a lot of agencies. I don't think you should be building agencies if you've not done it all. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, prove me wrong, but I look at my building. I've done our accounting, I've done our video editing, I've done our filming, I've done our Facebook ads, our landing pages, our sales, our account. Every single thing that happens in my 48 employees and 5 overseas people, I have done their job. Even our VA, who's from Bangladesh, his inbox emptying is what it's called. Matt Plapp did that every night for 12 months, 10 to 11 p.m. at night, had to go in Messenger and empty our clients' inboxes to get rid of the clutter. I didn't even know a VA existed. And then Billie Jean was like, "Hey, you still do that?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Hey, go to Upwork, take the
Love that.
strategy, hire somebody."
Lo
So
lo Love that, but, since our audience is here for a sales conversation, I think just to kinda put a bow on that, it's really important if you're gonna go out there and hire someone to do sales, make sure that you have served in each one of those functions, right?
yeah,
Whether
I
it
think
be an appointment setter, a closer, make sure that you and as part of from a coaching and development standpoint, why are you gonna take advice, coaching, and development if you're a sales professional from someone that you don't think could sit in the seat and do the job just as well, if not better, than you're being asked to do?
I'll never forget my junior year of high school. I joined the track team. Our track coach couldn't see his feet. And I remember I said to him, I was a little arrogant prick. He was giving me advice around the hurdles. And I remember saying, "Dude, like, how do I take advice? Like, have you run in 30 years?" Like, I'm being honest, that's what it was. And so, like, our sales team, I'll never forget this moment too. This was in, let's see, they were sitting, I'm picturing where the people were sitting because our sales team has moved around our building. Now we're the entire first floor, but it's moved around. But they were sitting in the air out here, and I walk by and I hear, oh, I know what it was. It was Trevor. Trevor's on the phone. He's like, "Hi, is Leroy there? This is Trevor." And I listened to him, and he hangs up the phone. I said, "Trevor, who's your best friend?" That Will. "Would you talk to Will like that? Because if you're calling me, I know you're a freaking salesperson. It's not like shit. So do me a favor, give me the phone, give me the next restaurant." I hadn't made a call. This is probably going on 2 years. We were like 2 years into our journey of sales. After that first time in the conference room, I was out of it. I had never done it again. I just went through it, showed them. They saw I could do it. Grabbed the phone. What's the guy's name? Chris. "Chris, what's going on, brother? Hey, it's Matt, America's Best Restaurants. Hey, really quick, don't want to take up your time, but you caught our attention with what you're doing, A, B, and C. We're going to be in town next Wednesday. Is it cool if we stop by at 10 a.m. to have a meeting with you, or is 3 p.m. better?" Set the appointment. Like, I did it right there. Had I never done that before or didn't have confidence in my skill to do it, then it wouldn't have happened. And so that is a key element is that if you've not sat in the seat, how do you teach them? And so you know what? That might be a hard thing to do that maybe if you're not that person and you don't have the ability to learn it because sales is a skill, then you might have to find a business partner that has that skill, or you might have to go find somebody that you trust at a high level. Everybody that's on my team, I could go through and tell you stories of everyone I'm in this building that's on the sales team and how I know them from my son's football team, my wife's friend, my best friend in middle school's stepdaughter. They all have a connection to me. They all came to me, to this company for my vision from a personal Facebook post. And so they're out there. And by the way, the majority of my salespeople have no, actually, all of them but one. So 11 out of 12 have this much sales experience before they walk in this room.
We're going to talk about your hiring practices and what you look for in the right team member there. Um, Josh, don't mean to cut in here, but one of the things that go ahead.
No, I just was going to say your sales team is in person, and obviously we live in a remote world since COVID. So tell me, why do you feel as though it's so important that your sales team is in person? For me, half of my team is remote, and then I have local. And it's not just because they're local doesn't mean they're in person. I mean, we do meet at the office, but so can you talk a little bit about that and why it's important to you?
Yeah, so we had two remote salespeople for about a year and a half, Darren and Teresa. Both great people, both did a great job. They would go in these slumps like you've never seen in your life. And I would have to fly them into HQ and spend a week here. And so what happened was Darren would kick butt for 2 weeks. Then he'd go into a tailspin for 2 weeks. You know why? He's in his house. The no's stack up, man. If there's anything in this agency, in this business, nobody else in my entire company gets no's except for the sales team. And when you have 100 people that you have a conversation with, of which 80 tell you no, the 20 that say yes, 60% don't show up. So like it goes down to a point where you're clinging on to closing one or two deals on 5 to 6 appointments. That was a massive effort. And so Darren and Teresa would go into this spiral where their results would go from 30% close rate to 5%. I'd fly them in. They'd get the mojo here at HQ because at that point we had like 10 people internally, a couple externally, and they were great talents. They'd go back home. They'd do great for 2 or 3 weeks, and then they'd slowly go down. And so I think the biggest part of it is the coaching, the camaraderie. You have a little bell route here we ring when people close a deal. I run out there and give people chest bumps, except the women. We just high five. It might be awkward. Might be rules against that, especially in California where Clinton's at. But it's that camaraderie. It's having a meeting. Our sales team's in person. The meeting's out here. We have 3 sofas and like 6 reclining chairs that when they have the sales meeting tomorrow at 11:30 a.m., they will be around out there. They'll have a whiteboard. They'll talk about stuff. Last week, we gave out our first award, a new award we have called the FU Award, the follow-up award, because we were having a hard time with getting people to follow up how professional salespeople should. So I went to Home Depot or to Hobby Lobby. I found these wood plaques. I found these license plates that look like the number letters. I found FUs, spray painted it, glued them on there, and we gave out an award and people had a fun time with it. That doesn't happen on somebody over the phone. And I think the coaching's the biggest part, Josh. I was a college football player, not a good one, but I was one. I couldn't imagine Coach Rayford telling me how to not take a false step as a defensive back in man coverage over Zoom. Told me in person. And I tell you this, that you talk about showing something, you guys want to tell a moment that really ingrained in your head. I'm a senior, or I guess I was senior high school. I was at the spring game watching Morehead State University where I played, and they're having their scrimmage. And this fiery guy, Coach Rayford, he's probably 5'10", 2 1/4. So big, muscular guy. He's yelling, set the corner to the safety has to come up and set the corner on the toss sweep. Forget it. Get out of the way. He goes and plays safety. He's like, full speed, act like I have pads on. And I'm like, this is cool. He lays this kid out. Full gear, the coach is in street clothes. Destroys the kid. Blood on his face. Gets up like yelling and screaming. That's how you do it. That, Josh, could not happen over Zoom. And that's what happens in this office every week. People have ups, people have downs. We celebrate the ups. When they have downs, we figure them out. You can't do it over Zoom. You can't do it remote. I'm hardcore with that. And if you're going to do it remote, You're going to find a unique way to make a connection. Like it's culture.
Yeah, it makes me want to go out and get an office, except for my team is spread out all over the world, and I live in
Yeah.
probably the worst state in the country besides New York in terms of hiring employees and having them on site.
Are you guys still there? I thought a tsunami was hitting you.
No, no. Well, I'm
Okay.
safe from the tsunami, but I appreciate you checking in on me. All right, rapid fire some questions about your current setup for your sales team. You mentioned 12 sales team members right
Yeah.
now, plus Doug overseeing them. Walk through how many of them are outbound and how many are closers.
6 are outbound, 6 are closers.
Okay. What does a typical day look like in terms of activity for one of your outbound reps?
Yeah, outbound reps on a daily basis. They work 9 to 6 ish, but they also get stuff on their phone at nights. They're expected to add 15 leads to the CRM because you don't keep adding leads every day. You run out. And they're expected to make, well, let's look here. I got a scorecard. So Daniel is expected to make 375 outbound efforts a week.
Okay.
So whatever the math on 5 days a week is, he averaged looks like 72, 73, 70. He's expected to get a hold of 37 decision makers. He's expected to make 15 appointments out of that. He's expected to have 6 of them no show, 9 to show, and 3 to close. And
Let,
so,
let- the scorecard you just pulled out speaks to my next question. Really, when it comes to nobody's going to see that, still, but when it comes to accountability, right?
yeah.
So talk a little bit about how that scorecard allows you. It's black and white, right? In terms of activity levels there. So how are you using those scorecards? Who's filling them out? And how are you using them to manage activity on a weekly basis?
So here's what's unique about them is they're all managed. The numbers are in high level, like the activities in high level. So when they do things, they log it. It's in a dashboard. We still have them physically write one out so
Okay.
that they see every day what they did or didn't do, how their day went or didn't go. And so it's a reminder, and then they turn that in. Daniel turns his in to me because I oversee his sales position right now, testing it. He's a unique one. Doug oversees everybody else. They turn theirs into him. At the bottom of the scorecard, there's also a section that says read, become better, and move. Because I think it's important for our team to work on themselves as well as work for the stuff for me. So we always talk about a lot of self care with regards to that stuff. But yeah, they're monitored that way. If I were to go out here and show you, they're all 4 of them are sitting on sofas. They're not in cubes. They're in sofas. There's music jamming, and they're out there BSing about Harry Potter trivia night last night and making outbound Facebook messages, emails, and they'll go in the private areas and do phone calls throughout the day.
Love that.
Hey, we're gonna Clinton, let me just cut in real quick because we're gonna take a quick break and get a message in from our sponsor. So let's bring it in for Virtrify. Running an agency is demanding, and as you know, the process of interviewing, hiring, and training new team members is both time consuming and costly. It can even hold back your agency's growth. We have found a game changing solution in a company called Virtrify. Just like cracking the code to closing deals, finding the right talent is essential to your success. Virtrify partners with digital marketing agency owners to help them scale faster by providing bilingual appointment centers and salespeople from Latin America. As an agency owner, your time is best spent growing the business, not getting stuck in the process of hiring and training. Virtrify's staffing solution frees you up from those time-consuming tasks so you can focus on scaling. Ready to delegate and grow? Visit virtrify.com/closing code to find pre-trained salespeople who are experts in the closing code way. Let's build your high-performance sales team together.
All right, we're back from our sponsor break. One last question. You had talked at I think the last intensive that we were at about firing yourself as the sales director,
Yeah.
right? Tell us why you did that
Yeah.
and what happened right after.
We've had 2 of the best weeks we've had in 2 months. So I've had this issue with having my hands on sales for the past 6 years. And what happens with me is me being the CEO of one of our divisions is basically a startup with how we did it. So there's a lot of financial stress. And so Matt Plapp is what they call a thermostat, goes up and down the temperature.
I think that's a very mild way to put it. I don't know if I'd use thermostat as the edge.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Thermometer, thermostat, yeah. So Matt Plapp's temperature would change every day. And I would run hard and fast with our team, and they would eat up my vibe and they wouldn't want to let me down, and they would go hard and fast. The problem is not many people are built like that. That's why the Bulls, when Jordan was there, if you ever read up on it, the Bulls never had a rookie. They would draft people, get free agent rookies. they would quit before the season because the guy was a lunatic. And even though I'm not in the Jordan state era there, Jordan, like, not that level, I still have those same nuances where I think everybody should run hard and fast. And so me managing the team was a lot of hills and valleys because we would go hot, 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 and then they would crash and burn because I was a jackass. And I went through 2 different sales managers that I just couldn't get my hands around with regards to that I trusted to do what I wanted. And it came to a point like Doug was hired as a director of sales in 2019. He had taken over as COO and running one of our 2 divisions by himself with about 25 employees. And we realized that this was what he was built to do. He's done it in the past. That the employees, the sales team have to know that when Doug speaks, it's not a mouthpiece for Matt. The prior managers, they knew it was a mouthpiece for Matt. I was still involved, and it didn't help them manage. So they might have been great managers, but Matt Plapp fucking failed them because I was involved. And so I fired myself out of it. I don't think I've had any conversation with anybody going on probably close to 4 weeks. We had our worst sales time we've had in 5, 6 years the past 3 months. Just kept going down and down. And when Doug took it over and put some things in place, I mean, we did more deals this yesterday or Monday and Tuesday than we did 3 weeks ago in 7 days.
Wow. Well, I'm
Amazing.
glad you fired yourself, Matt. Seems like the agency is much better for it.
So,
Now I'm the CFO.
so let's just wrap it up here. A couple quick questions. What do you think the most underrated KPI is?
Effort.
So how do you measure that?
Track it. How many jump shots you take. Don't worry how many you made, how many you take. Can't
Well,
quit shooting. And I think that's a big element. We all look at the lagging indicator. How many deals you close this week? Well, deals closed are a product of appointments that show that are the right people. Those are a product of people you reach. Those are the product of people you effort. So if your effort's not there, you might have a hot week where your effort's down 80% and everybody shows and everybody buys. And now you're delusional that the KPI to look at is close deals. No, the KPI is swing the bat.
love that. Got one for him. I know you do both, but what do you think is more productive, cold calls or cold DMs?
Cold DMs on Facebook Messenger.
Love that.
Everybody's cell phones now. It's hard to call a business and get somebody there. The gatekeepers, they don't even answer the phones. We don't have a phone in our business anymore. It's not one there's a number. It rings to an AI voice agent and it goes to people through Asana. So, but I'm the admin of all of our Facebook pages. So if somebody's trying to reach Matt Plapp, I responded to 2 DMs on Instagram last night to our page, sales messages that I saw that resonated with me. And so our team used their personal Facebook accounts. And by the way, most of our sales team are 25-year-olds and a lot of females that weren't on Facebook 5 years ago. They're now on Facebook using that, and it's outreach from a human.
We're going to bring Matt back in the future for another episode where we just talk about his social media outreach strategy and
Great idea.
exactly what he looks for when he's hiring people for his sales team there. So
So we're going to wrap it up for today, Matt. It's been such a joy to listen to your story and the progress. You've done an amazing job and built an amazing team. So my hat's off to you. We all know it's not easy. You make it look easy and you make it look like a hell of a lot of fun. But thanks again for being our guest. Really appreciate it.
I
And
appreciate
Josh, I think we need to congratulate Matt because he made it through this entire interview without dropping a single F bomb,
No,
which I think for Matt is huge progress. Matt,
record.
always a pleasure to get on here, talk, especially talk sales with you, man, because I know that's something that you're super passionate about, and it's Josh and mine's big passion. For the audience, thank you guys for sticking around. I hope you got a lot of value out of the conversation that we had with Matt today. We ask that you go ahead and find us on social media, like us, leave some great comments, and if you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you leave one of those 5-star reviews because that allows us to get our content in front of a bigger audience.
So,
So
can I end with 2 things?
please, Matt.
2 books you got to buy.
Okay.
You've probably all read this one, but read it again. $1 Million Offers by Alex Hormozy. There's a lot of things hidden in there that are going to assist the sales team, but then also buy the book Predictable Revenue, which I had heard ironically through my friend in Greece, Christos, who heard it from a Hormozy video. That book really helped me understand the roles of our sales team and some other ways to do things. And so those are 2 great books.
Love that. So for our audience, predictable revenue, and Alec Hormozzi's, I believe it was his first book, $100 million offers.
Yeah.
And for those who are interested, I think he's dropping his third in the series here in the next week or so. So, all right, Josh, as always, my friend, great getting you on here. And Matt, again, thank you for dropping so much wisdom, so much knowledge on our audience. We thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of The Closing Code. We'll be back with more insightful interviews with guys like Matt that really just share what's working in his agency in terms of selling more high-ticket clients. Josh, you got a message for the audience?
Just keep in mind, never forget, ABC, everybody, ABC.
Always be closing. Thank you, guys.
See you, brother.
If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to the podcast for more straight shooting advice on closing deals that matter. Unlock the code, close the deal, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Closing Code Podcast.